Emily Davis never imagined she'd restart her life in her 30s, not like this. Not after losing the man she thought she'd grow old with. Not while holding her 2-year-old daughter in one arm and her husband's death certificate in the other. Robert, her first husband, wasn't perfect, but he was good, steady. He called her Sunflower and left her post-it notes with doodled hearts on the fridge. He was the kind of father who came home early just to see Sophia's bedtime giggles. The kind of husband who didn't need to be asked, he just showed up. And then he didn't. One rainy Thursday, on his way home from a late shift, he never made the left turn at Franklin Street. A truck, a phone call, a crash report. That was all it took to erase the life she thought she had. From that moment on, Emily became two people. The woman who smiled for Sophia, packed her lunch, braided her hair, and the woman who cried in the laundry room at 2 a.m., whispering, "I miss you," to no one. She went back to work at the hospital 3 weeks later. Bills didn't wait for grief. She picked up extra night shifts, took fewer breaks, and forced herself to move. Not because she was strong, but because she didn't have a choice. She didn't have family nearby. Her parents had passed. Robert's family drifted away after the funeral. Only her best friend Sarah remained, but even Sarah had her own kids, her own mess to manage. So Emily did what single mothers do best. She endured. Sophia became her anchor, her reason, her sun and storm. Emily poured all her energy into being two parents in one body. And though exhaustion became her daily companion, she never let it show in front of her daughter. When Sophia asked, "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids?" Emily smiled gently and said, "Because Mommy loves you enough for two." But when she was alone, she ached, not just for Robert, but for rest, for someone to help carry the weight, for the chance to stop being the strong one, just for a little while. She never said it out loud, but in the quietest corners of her heart, Emily longed for safety. She didn't need romance. She didn't want passion. She wanted safety, consistency, someone who would remember her coffee order and kiss Sophia goodnight. But in her world, that kind of man felt like a storybook character. And Emily had stopped believing in fairy tales a long time ago. Until one day, in the least expected way, someone appeared, not with flowers or promises, but with a warm blanket and a quiet thank you. And that, as Emily would later learn, is exactly how the most dangerous stories begin. It was supposed to be a routine shift. Emily was exhausted, barely halfway through a 12-hour rotation at the hospital. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The coffee was cold. Her back ached. Her heart even more so. That's when she saw him. He was standing outside room 312, holding a worn paperback and a paper cup of coffee. He looked lost, but not helpless. Calm, but deeply tired. The kind of tired that lives in your bones, not just your face. "Can I help you?" Emily asked, adjusting the chart in her hand. "My mom just got out of surgery," he said quietly. "They told me to wait here." There was something about his voice, soft-spoken, steady, that made her pause. Emily had dealt with every kind of visitor in the hospital. The loud ones, the rude ones, the ones who asked for Wi-Fi before asking about their loved one. But this man, he just stood there, holding a cup of hospital coffee like it was all he had, and said, "Thank you for taking care of her." She would later tell Sarah, "That's the first thing he ever said to me. Not a pickup line, not small talk, just thank you." His name was Michael. He visited every day for 2 weeks, sat by his mother's bedside, brought crossword puzzles, held her hand, never once complained. Sometimes Emily would pass by the room and see him reading aloud to his mother. Sometimes Sophia, who occasionally waited at the nurse's station during Emily's late shifts, would walk by and smile shyly. Michael always waved gentle and playful. One evening, when Sophia dropped her stuffed rabbit in the hallway, Michael picked it up and crouched to her level. "Is this yours, Miss Sophia?" he asked with mock seriousness. Sophia nodded. "His name is Captain Fluff?" Michael smiled. "Well, Captain Fluff looks like a brave bunny." It was such a small moment, But Emily saw it and felt something crack open in her chest. Something cautious but curious. She wasn't looking for love. God, no. But when Michael started showing up with spare juice boxes for Sophia, or asked how Emily was doing without asking too much, she noticed. And yet, there was a question that started whispering in the back of her mind, quiet but persistent. Why is he so perfect? Why was he so calm, so patient, so effortless with children? Most men, especially single men, weren't like that. They stumbled, they faked it. Michael didn't. He looked at Sophia the way a real father might. He remembered her favorite color, sat cross-legged on the floor to play Candyland. He didn't just tolerate her presence, he cherished it. And Emily, for the first time in years, felt seen. But that question kept tapping her shoulder. Can a man really be this good without wanting something in return? At the time, she silenced it. Later, she'd wish she had listened. The wedding was small, just a backyard ceremony, a borrowed speaker, and Sophia tossing flower petals with all the grace of a giggling hurricane. Emily wore a dress she'd altered herself. Michael wore a navy suit and a smile that never left his face. And Sophia, she clung to Michael's leg like he'd always been her daddy. From the outside, it looked like a second chance, wrapped in ribbon. And inside, it felt that way too. Life with Michael settled into a rhythm almost like it had always been there. Weekdays were filled with routine. Morning coffee, always black, always in the same mug. Emily's hospital shifts. Homework with Sophia at the kitchen table. Weekends were sacred. Saturday was park day. Michael carried Sophia on his shoulders while Emily trailed behind, snapping photos and smiling wider than she had in years. Sunday mornings meant pancakes shaped like animals and lazy afternoons spent reading on the couch, Sophia nestled between them with a blanket and a book. Michael didn't just tolerate family life, he seemed to thrive in it. He picked Sophia up from preschool when Emily worked late. He packed her lunch with sticky notes that said, "You're brave," or "Captain Fluff believes in you." He always remembered the bedtime story, always kissed Emily goodnight, always folded his clothes neatly. No shouting, no tension, no cold silences or slammed doors. It was all easy, too easy. Sometimes Emily caught herself watching Michael like a stranger. Not with suspicion, not yet, but with a strange ache. Because somewhere deep down, she feared that anything this perfect doesn't last. But he kept proving her wrong, again and again. On their 1-year anniversary, he gave her a necklace with a charm that had Sophia's initials engraved. "I didn't just marry you," he whispered. "I married both of you." Emily cried that night not because she was sad, but because for the first time in years, she felt safe. And safety for someone who had lived through loss felt almost like a miracle. The only room Emily never stepped into was Michael's home office, the study. Not because he locked it, he didn't, but because he always cleaned it himself, organized, labeled, precise. It was his space, he said, his mental reset zone, and Emily respected that. She had no reason not to, until one evening after dinner, after Sophia had drifted off to sleep and the house was wrapped in soft, warm quiet, Michael leaned in close. His voice was low, gentle. "Hey, if you ever clean around the house, just don't go into my office, okay?" Emily blinked. "Why?" He smiled the same soft smile he always wore. "It's just, I keep everything in a certain order. It helps me think. If things get moved around, I lose my flow." She nodded slowly. "Okay, sure." It was such a small request, so casual, so rational. But when he kissed her forehead and walked away, Emily stood there, fingertips cold, mind humming. Because something in the way he said it, "just don't go into my office," didn't sound like a suggestion. It sounded like a rule. And rules in a house built on trust shouldn't have felt so heavy. It started with dinner. Baked salmon,
roasted vegetables. Sophia humming to herself while cutting cherry tomatoes in half. Emily was pouring water when Michael cleared his throat. I need to go to Chicago next week, he said. Just for 3 days. There's a client audit, and they want me on site. Emily looked up, surprised, but not alarmed. He rarely traveled for work. Michael was the kind of man who liked routine. Same breakfast, same routes, same time for brushing his teeth. But she nodded. All right. Do you need help packing? Michael smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. No, I've got it. Nothing major. Just suits and files. He reached for his glass a little too quickly. The fork in his left hand clinked against the plate. Sophia beamed. Will you bring me something from Chicago? Of course, Michael said, gently touching her hair. A surprise. That night, as they cleaned up the table, he added almost offhandedly, like an afterthought. Oh, and hey, while I'm gone, just don't worry about the study, okay? Emily paused, drying her hands with a towel. Wasn't planning to, she said with a laugh, but sure, dust bunnies will have to wait. Michael chuckled, but there was tension behind it. Not fear, not anger, just something off. He leaned against the kitchen counter, folding his arms. There's just a lot of paperwork stacked by client priority. If things move around, it'll throw me off. Emily smiled. I get it. You and your sacred filing system. Michael's face relaxed a little. Exactly. But when he turned away, Emily lingered by the sink. Something about the exchange stayed with her. Not loud, not clear, just a ripple. The morning of the trip, Michael was up before the alarm. He wore a charcoal gray suit. The tie was already knotted before Emily even stepped into the kitchen. He kissed her cheek, hugged Sophia extra long, and wheeled his suitcase to the door. Text me when you land, Emily said. I will, Michael replied, then added quieter, seriously, don't worry about the study, okay? Emily raised an eyebrow, teasing. What, hiding state secrets in there? Michael laughed, but the sound was thinner than usual. No, just numbers and chaos. You'd be bored. He kissed her again, smiled, and then he was gone. Emily stood at the window watching the cab turn the corner. Sophia ran up still in pajamas. Mommy, when will Daddy be back? 3 days, sweetie. Emily kissed her forehead. But for some reason, her eyes stayed on the empty street just a few seconds longer than usual. She didn't know why. Not yet. It was the kind of Saturday morning that made you believe in second chances. Warm light spilled through the windows. Pancakes were flipped. Laughter echoed through the small house in Dayton. Emily had planned to finally catch up on laundry, maybe dust the hallway shelves. Sophia, in her rainbow socks and oversized t-shirt, was dancing around the living room with a duster in one hand and a tiara on her head. Let's clean the whole house, Mommy, she shouted, twirling like a tornado. Emily laughed. I like the enthusiasm, ma'am. But we'll start with the downstairs deal. As they vacuumed and polished, Sophia suddenly paused near the study door. Her little hand pressed against the wood. Can we clean in here too? She asked, eyes wide. I want to surprise Daddy. Emily blinked. Michael's words floated back to her. Just don't worry about the study. She hesitated, but Sophia's smile was so bright, and really, what harm could it do? Just a little dusting. A 5-year-old's good intentions. Emily knelt down beside her. Just a quick tidy. No digging through drawers, okay? Sophia giggled. Promise. The door creaked open. Emily hadn't stepped into Michael's office in months. It smelled like printer ink and aftershave. Papers were neatly stacked, his laptop was shut, pens lined up in a tray. Sophia tiptoed in and began dusting the bookshelf. Emily grabbed the trash bin and bent over to pick up a few scraps by the desk. That's when she noticed the bottom drawer slightly ajar. She almost ignored it. Almost, but something inside her hand, maybe habit, maybe instinct, pulled it open. What she saw made her heart stop. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, of Sophia. Not the ones from family albums, not selfies or school portraits. These were different, private, intimate. A photo of Sophia asleep in bed. Another of her brushing her teeth, her shirt halfway up. One where she was coming out of the bathroom, towel slipping. Some photos were zoomed in, some blurred. Some looked like they were taken through a crack in the door. Beneath the stack were small Ziploc bags, each carefully labeled. Hair strands, a toothbrush, a crumpled pair of socks. Emily stared at them. Her mind went blank, then filled all at once. Every warm moment with Michael him carrying Sophia to bed, him brushing her hair, him lingering a little too long at her door, none of it felt innocent anymore. "Mommy!" Sophia's voice cut through the fog. She was still wiping the bookshelf unaware. Emily's throat tightened. Her hands began to shake. She closed the drawer, slowly, carefully, then stood, legs barely steady. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She took Sophia's hand gently. "We're done cleaning," she whispered. "Let's go get ice cream, sweetheart." Sophia beamed. "Yay!" And as they walked out, Emily left the office door wide open, like an accusation. Emily had opened drawers before, thousands of times, at work, at home, in the quiet rhythm of daily life. But this drawer felt different. It resisted her hand, as if it knew it held something that didn't want to be seen. She tugged gently. It stuck. Tugged again, harder this time. The metal runners groaned, and the drawer slid open with a dull click. Inside were photographs. At first, nothing alarming. Sophia playing in the yard, Sophia drawing with crayons, Sophia asleep on the couch. But as Emily flipped through them, her breath slowed. The photos changed. Sophia in the bathtub, Sophia changing clothes caught mid-motion. Sophia curled up under a blanket, her face too close, like someone had zoomed in. These weren't memories. These were intrusions. Emily's hand trembled. Under the photos, a small Ziploc bag, labeled in neat handwriting, April. Inside, a lock of hair. Another, toothbrush, Feb. Another, socks, blue ones. She opened the next drawer. Underwear, tiny shirts, not folded, arranged, displayed like collectibles. Worshipped. Emily's stomach flipped. She backed away, then turned and grabbed her phone with fingers that could barely grip. She hit 911. Her voice cracked when the operator answered. "I need help. Please, it's my husband. I think he's been watching my daughter, photographing her, keeping things." She stopped choking on her own breath, because suddenly she remembered something. A tiny voice from weeks ago. Sophia. Half asleep. "Mommy, I woke up. Daddy was in my room. He said, 'Shh.'" Emily hadn't thought anything of it at the time. Now it shattered her. She gripped the edge of the table, knees buckling. Her world, the safe home she thought she had built, had turned into a lie. A soft lie, a well-mannered lie, but a lie all the same. And now she was done being quiet. Emily clutched the phone like it was the last piece of a crumbling reality. Her breath came in uneven gasps. Her fingers trembled. The dispatcher's voice came through calm and steady. 911, what's your emergency? Emily could barely speak. She tried to be clear for Sophia. "For my daughter. You need to send someone, please." Her voice cracked. Then she forced herself to be precise. "My name is Emily Davis. I just found something in my husband's office." A beat. "What did you find, ma'am?" Emily swallowed hard, then whispered, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. "Pictures of my daughter, Sophia. Dozens. Some not right. And little bags with her hair, her toothbrush, clothes." The dispatcher's tones sharpened, but remained calm. "Are you and your daughter safe right now?" Emily nodded instinctively, then realized the dispatcher couldn't see her. Yes, he's not here. He's in Chicago, business trip. Left this morning. Is your daughter with you?" Emily looked down at Sophia, who stood barefoot in the hallway hugging a stuffed bunny. Her eyes were wide, confused, but trusting. Yes, she's here. She doesn't know anything yet. Do not touch anything else in the room. Help is on the way. Officers are en route. Emily sank to the floor, holding the phone to her ear like a lifeline. The words kept repeating in her mind. Pictures of my daughter. A bag of her hair.
A toothbrush! Her voice, normally calm and composed as a nurse, now cracked with every syllable as if her soul had split right down the middle. And just then, she heard a sound. A notification ding. A text message. From Michael. Flight delay. Be home earlier than planned. Emily. Blood turned to ice. The knock came sharp. 3 quick raps. No hesitation. Emily opened the door.
2 officers stood there, uniforms crisp, expressions unreadable. One was tall and solid with a notepad already in hand. The other, shorter, wore blue gloves and carried a black case. "Ma'am, we're with Dayton PD. You made the call?" Emily nodded. Her voice had vanished hours ago. She stepped aside, clutching Sophia to her hip like armor. The officers entered quietly, no chaos, no raised voices, but their presence filled the house with tension. The taller one spoke softly as they walked toward the office. "We'll need to collect any items you found. Please don't touch anything else." Emily gestured wordlessly to the drawer. The officer crouched, opened it carefully, and pulled out the stack of photos. His face didn't move. Not a wince, not a blink. He passed them one by one to his partner, who sealed each photo in a plastic evidence sleeve. Then came the bags, the toothbrush, the undergarments, the hair. All documented, all labeled, all bagged. Emily stood frozen in the hallway. She felt like she was watching someone else's life, like she'd slipped into a horror movie with no script and no exit. Her legs shook. "Ma'am," the shorter officer said, gently glancing at Sophia, "do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" Emily blinked as if waking up. I don't know. My sister. Maybe." "That's good. Please consider staying with someone you trust." "Just until we sort through everything." The taller officer added, voice low, "We'll run his name. We'll know soon if this isn't the first time." Emily wanted to collapse, but she couldn't, not while Sophia was still holding her hand. And then one line echoed in her head again. "Don't go into my office, okay?" Emily didn't say a word as she buckled Sophia into the car seat. The night air was thick. Her hands trembled as she closed the door. Behind them, the police cruiser still idled in front of the house. Blue and red lights pulsed silently against the siding. She walked back inside once to grab a small bag, 2 changes of clothes, and Sophia's bunny. No toothbrush, no photos, no goodbyes, just escape. She drove slowly through their quiet neighborhood where porch lights still glowed warm and kids' bikes leaned against fences. Everything looked so normal, so oblivious. In the back seat, Sophia's voice broke the silence. "Where's Daddy?" Emily's throat clenched. She couldn't answer. She just kept driving. The tears came quietly, burning her eyes but never spilling. She had to stay strong. For Sophia. For both of them. 20 minutes later, she pulled into Sarah's driveway. The porch light flicked on. Her sister was already standing there, barefoot in pajamas. She didn't ask questions. She just opened her arms. Emily stepped out of the car, picked up Sophia, and walked into that light, the only light she trusted now. And in her mind, one thought echoed like thunder. "We lived with a man I never really knew, in the house I thought was ours." Emily sat in the small interview room. The walls were bare, cold, the kind that made you feel like you didn't exist. Across the table, the detective didn't look up from the file, just turned a page. And said flatly, "His real name isn't Michael Davis." Emily blinked. She didn't respond, because she didn't understand. He was born Daniel Mark Rains, convicted in California 12 years ago for unlawful contact with a minor, served 2 years, probation after that. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. He legally changed his name after probation, moved between 4 states, no fixed job, just odd gigs, always near playgrounds, libraries, or single-parent housing. Emily's hands began to shake. The detective didn't stop. "We believe he followed you for 6 months before speaking to you. He knew you were a widow. He knew about Sophia. He targeted you deliberately." It felt like the floor vanished beneath her. Every memory, his smile, his kindness, his bedtime stories, they shattered. And one thought crawled into her mind like poison. Was any of it real? Emily's hands were buried in her hair, fists clenched, shoulders shaking. The interview room felt smaller now, like the walls were collapsing in with every breath she took. Her voice cracked, then cracked again. "I let him in. I let him near my daughter." Silence. He tucked her in. He kissed her forehead. He read her bedtime stories. And I stood right there. The shame was louder than her words. It echoed through her ribs, burned in her throat. I trusted him. I married him. God, I left her alone with him. The detective reached forward gently. "Emily, you didn't fail. You were manipulated by a professional predator." She shook her head, over and over. Tears streaked down her cheeks, unstoppable. "I should have known. I should have seen something. Anything." The detective's voice was soft but firm. "No, he made sure you wouldn't." Emily gripped the table as if she might fall through it, as if the world had lost its floor. But one thought kept screaming inside her. How do I ever forgive myself? Emily stood in the living room. Every light in the house was off except the one above the entryway. Her phone was recording, hidden behind a picture frame. The detective's voice echoed in her mind. "He'll come back. Just stay calm. Don't confront him until we arrive." But calm was a distant memory. Rage buzzed beneath her skin like static. Sophia was safe, at Sarah's. Emily had kissed her goodbye with trembling lips, saying, "We're just cleaning the house today, honey." Now it was just her, the front door, and the monster who still thought he was welcome here. She heard the engine outside, footsteps, keys at the door. She didn't blink, didn't move. The door opened. There he was, suitcase in hand, fake smile on his face. "Hey, babe, I'm home." Emily stared straight into his eyes, voice steady, cold as ice. "Welcome home, or should I say Michael Johnson?" His face froze. His mouth opened just slightly, and that's when the sirens began to wail in the distance. Michael blinked, then took a step back. His face went pale. The color drained like water from a cracked glass. "Emily, wait, just listen to me." Emily didn't flinch. I did, for 2 years. Her voice calm, controlled, every word crystal clear for the hidden microphone still recording behind her. "I listened when you tucked her in, when you smiled at me with that perfect husband face, when you told me to stay out of your study." Michael's mouth opened, then closed again. He looked at the door. But outside, the red and blue sirens were getting closer. He reached a trembling hand toward her. "Please, it's not what you think. I didn't mean—" Emily didn't move. "Save it for the cops, or better, the courtroom." And then she leaned in, just close enough for her voice to cut like glass. "Don't act surprised. You groomed a mother, and you lost." Michael stumbled back. The doorknob slipped in his sweaty hand. Then, bang, bang, bang. "Michael Johnson, this is the Dayton Police Department. Step outside with your hands up." The interrogation room was cold. Sterile walls, a ticking clock. Michael sat across from the officer, hands cuffed, shirt wrinkled, eyes wild. Emily sat behind the glass, her fists clenched, breath held. The officer leaned in. Tell us exactly why you kept those photos, those items. Michael swallowed, then smiled. Not a grin, not nervous, a smile. I loved her. The officer paused. Loved who? Sophia. He said it like it was obvious. Like her name was wholly on his tongue. Emily's stomach turned. She wanted to scream, to break the glass and end it all, but she listened. You don't understand, Michael continued, voice low, trembling. She's not like other kids. She's gentle. Her smile, it healed me. You think I'm sick, but she made me feel clean again. The room fell silent. Even the officer blinked, stunned. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, as if that could block out the sound. But the words had already burned themselves into her bones. She stood up and walked away, not because she was weak, but because no mother should ever have to hear a monster call her daughter holy. The hallway was cold. Outside the interrogation room, Emily stood, arms folded, jaw locked. Sophia's bracelet still dangled on her wrist. Then footsteps, fast, sharp. 2 officers stormed in, hands on holsters. Michael Johnson, one said firm and clear, "You are under arrest for possession of illicit material, endangering a minor, and violation of parole. Turn around." Michael froze, his hands lifted slowly, but his eyes searched for Emily. Emily, his voice cracked. I swear, I loved you. I still do. She stepped closer, met his eyes not with anger, but something sharper, truth. You didn't love us, you studied us, tracked us, groomed us. Your love was obsession, Michael, and there's no place for it here. The officer clicked the cuffs. Cold steel. Final. Clack. And just like that, the illusion shattered. The mask was off. The man was gone. Emily exhaled. Her knees gave in and she dropped to the ground, not in fear, but in quiet victory. She had saved her daughter. Sophia hadn't smiled in days. She clutched her blanket tighter every night. Woke up screaming from nightmares she couldn't name, flinched at the sound of footsteps, avoided men, even the kind ones. In the soft-lit room of a child psychologist, she sat cross-legged on the rug, fingers buried in a stuffed rabbit's ears. The therapist spoke gently, like coaxing light back into a shattered window. Outside the door, Emily paced. Her hands trembled. Her mind screamed the same question again and again. How didn't I see it? How did I let this happen? When the session ended, the therapist walked out and placed a hand on her shoulder. You are not to blame, Emily, she said with a voice full of certainty. You protected her the moment you knew. That's what survivors do. Emily blinked, tears welling. It didn't erase the guilt. But for the first time, someone had called her something other than careless or foolish. They called her a survivor. The apartment wasn't big, but it smelled like lavender and safety. There were no hidden drawers, no locked doors, just white curtains dancing in the breeze and a fridge covered in Sophia's drawings. Emily stood by the window on their first night, watching her daughter giggle over silly cartoons. The past still ached in her bones, but the air felt lighter. She'd found a job again, same hospital, different department. Her colleagues welcomed her with warmth, not pity. Some brought flowers, some brought silence and kind eyes. And Sophia, she made a friend, a little girl named June with wild curls and a loud laugh. They chased butterflies at recess, painted rainbows in class, and for the first time in months, Sophia smiled without fear. At bedtime, Sophia whispered, I like this house. It doesn't feel scared. Emily kissed her forehead, holding back tears. Me too, baby, she whispered back. Me too. The first letter came 6 weeks after the sentencing. It was neat, carefully written in blue ink. The handwriting she once found charming now made her stomach turn. Emily, it began, I know I made mistakes, but I want to make things right. Maybe we can talk. She didn't finish reading it. She didn't need to. She folded it once, tore it straight down the middle, then into quarters, then into nothing. 2 more letters followed, both marked "Return to Sender." Emily never replied. Not with words, not with feelings. When her therapist gently asked, "Would forgiving him help you move forward?" Emily answered without hesitation, "Forgiveness isn't for him, it's for me, so I can breathe again, so I can stop carrying his poison in my chest." She stood by the window that night watching Sophia sleep. No locked door, just peace. Family isn't blood. It's where my daughter can sleep with her door open. It was a quiet Sunday morning. The smell of pancakes danced through the kitchen. Sunlight spilled onto the floor like honey. Emily flipped a pancake, lost in thought, when Sophia looked up from coloring. "Mom?" Emily turned. "Will I ever have a new dad?" The question came so softly, but it echoed like thunder in her chest. She put down the spatula, knelt beside her daughter, brushed a loose curl behind Sophia's ear. "You already have love, baby," Emily whispered. "And someday, maybe, someone kind and brave will love you and me. But I'll only let them in if they love you more than they love themselves." Sophia nodded, not fully understanding, but sensing the truth in her mother's eyes. They hugged right there on the kitchen floor, between pancakes and coloring books, wrapped in something no storm could ever steal. The breeze was light, the sky forgiving. Emily held Sophia's hand as they walked through the park. Laughter echoed not from a perfect family, but from a real one. They fed ducks by the pond, blew dandelions into the wind, laid on the grass, and found animals in the clouds. Emily brought out a book, the same one she used to read before everything changed. This time, her voice didn't shake. No lump in her throat, no pain behind each word. Sophia leaned into her, smiling. Emily kissed the top of her head and kept reading. There was no daddy in the picture, but there was love, there was safety, and that was enough. Family isn't something you find, it's something you build one safe day at a time. I opened a drawer and my whole world shattered, but from the wreckage, I built something new. Not perfect, not complete, but honest and safe. And for me, that's enough. Because sometimes what breaks us also shows us what truly matters. Family isn't who you're told to love, it's who you're safe to be yourself with. Sometimes the most dangerous people don't break in through windows, they come in through the front door wearing a smile. Trust is not just about love, it's about patterns, instincts, and listening to that quiet voice inside when something feels off. And if you're a parent, never ignore the little signs. The why behind a child's hesitation, fear, or sudden silence may be whispering the truth louder than words. Love protects. Real love never hides in locked drawers. If this story moved you or reminded you to trust your instincts, hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover the hidden truths behind ordinary lives. Your click could mean more awareness, more strength, more healing for someone who needs it, maybe even you. Subscribe, share, stay aware.